Alright, it's ready to go. Okay, so guys, we finished up with Area of Study 2. I haven't looked at the SACs, I will look at the SACs, and I'll probably have them marked by the end of the weekend, so I'll give them to you at the start of next week. So we're moving on to Chapter 5, which is Operations Management. This is the bigger SAC. It's worth 40 marks. It's worth a lot, but in essence it's still one chapter. However, there's a lot of content. There's key terms, there's a lot of things that we need to know. So we're going to take our time. We're going to go through this reasonably slowly. And I think that, if we do that, we should be able to pick it up, relatively easily. Okay, so don't stress. I know it's a big sack, but I think if we go through this and you make sure that you do all the homework, work requirements, study, you'll be fine. All right, so Area of Study 3, Outcome 3, Operations Management. Okay, so I've just copied this down from the study design just to give you an idea of what Operations Management is about, and also something to read and just check as you're going, because the study design, of course, is always our go-to guide as to what we need to know. All right, at the end of the day, Operations Management is about the production of goods and all services, and that really is the core objective of any business. Because, Regis, you don't really have a business unless you've got goods or services that you can offer for sale. So that's kind of what you need. So Operations Management is about effectively managing that process of making the goods or services. So that's transforming your various inputs into the output and doing that in the most efficient and effective way. That's what Operations Management is about. Okay? So we're looking specifically at Chapter 5 here. Grab a seat. Okay, so there are 9 dot points. That's a lot. Okay, I know that. We will be going through that. Remember, like I said for the last SAC, there was a little bit of confusion here. But every single PowerPoint that we go through, I will have the dot points at the front. So again, Marilyn, thank you. Again, that is your go-to place. So I guess if you're confused, you go, well, what do we need to know and how do we need to know it? Look at the dot points. Look at the key knowledge. Look at the key skills. Okay? There are 9 of these and there's a lot to this. Okay? Don't stress, we'll be going through. Alright, key skills as well. Alright, so all of that seems like a lot. But really you can sort of break it into probably 4 areas, Luca. Okay? What is Operations Management and how does it relate to a business? Strategies to improve that operations process. And we'll look at 4 specific strategies. Corporate social responsibility, that should say CSR, not CRS. Corporate social, and I'll change that. Corporate social responsibility in relation to operations. So how do we take into consideration as a business our social responsibility obligations? And then global consideration. So really, there's 4 main areas that you need to think about and know for this particular area of study. Alright, so just a note, when you're looking at past exams, Luca, and there's a lot of past exam questions, there will be questions that are relevant to the current study design. Now that is because Operations Management was something that we studied in the previous study design, Nick. There are some differences though, so we've got to be careful. So again, I will let you know what is relevant to the current study design. We will do practice past exam questions as we go through this topic, and we'll look at the exemplar examples. Exam that VCAA has popped up online. So we'll look at all of those. You're going to have a lot of handouts that need to be completed, case studies, practice SACs, and a reminder: there is only 1 SAC for Outcome 3. So 1 SAC, and I've sent through the details, and I popped that up on Dropbox. We'll probably be doing that at the 9-Way Centre because yesterday was a bit of a squash for all of us to get in the room. So hopefully we can sit the next SAC in the 9-Ways Centre and have a little bit more room. Okay. All right. So 40 marks. It's scheduled to take place on the 30th of May. 30th of May, and I sent through another email to let you guys know that. I don't know why I wrote June. So that's pretty much the holidays, I think, or very close to. So if we haven't started Unit 4 by then, we're in trouble. So it will definitely be taking place on the 30th of May. Okay, so if you want to pop that down in your diaries, that's fine. Okay, so let's get started. Dot point 1. Shh, Nick, remember we're recording the audio, so we've got to be quiet, otherwise it won't get picked up. If you're wondering, Luca, what that is, I'm recording the audio for the NSE students. Hello, NSE students. I don't know why I waved there, because you can't actually see. I actually waved. Yes, because...
Your wife Costa.
All right, shush. Thank you, Luca. All right, so the relationship between operations management and business objectives. Okay. All organisations, including not-for-profit organisations, and or services organisations, will have an operations function. So, what we're talking about here, Dennis, is we're talking about the activities involved in the actual production of goods and or services. That's what we're talking about. And that's known as operations. So the actual, production process of making a good or providing a service, that is known as operations. You can't really have a business without producing a good or service. I can't think of one. Can anyone think of a business that doesn't produce a good or a service that actually exists? Papa John's? Don't they make pizza?
Schools?
Yeah. Not very.
Schools. Oh, I like that. Thank you, Luca. Apparently schools don't actually provide a service. Isn't it like a prison to imprison students? That's the service we provide?
Like that?
Yeah. Educational service there, Luca. Even if the students resist the service that's being offered, it is produced and provided. So it's an interesting one, and we will talk about actually that as an example of a service-based organisation. We'll look at schools and how that actually works. So at the end of the day, all organisations, including not-for-profit organisations, produce goods and all services. They quite often produce a combination of both. Spirit.
So when are we going for the excursion to the factory?
I'm just putting through the forms now. I think it is the 25th of May.
Okay.
I've got to double check the date. I obviously don't have it in front of me. But that's looks like it's going ahead, and that'll help us understand manufacturing process a little bit more, and some of the strategies that manufacturing organisations use to optimise the operations process and do things more efficiently and effectively. So hopefully the excursion will shed some light onto some of those questions that you guys might have. Okay, can I move on?
Yep.
Remember, if you do fall behind, this of course will all be online, and you can listen to this again and again and again, because I know that you would like to do that.
It's like you advertise again.
No, I'm just saying to you guys, if you'd like to listen to it over and over again. I'm sure you don't, but that's okay. All right, so operations. And for those of you who are looking at the book, we are looking at 5.1. Okay? All right. So,
Go back just for a second.
okay, just for a second. So if we think about the first dot point talks about the relationship between objectives and operations. Okay, so what's the relationship between operations management and business objectives? Well, to understand that, we've got to go back a little bit, back to Aero Study 1, and we've got to talk about, well, business objectives. What does that mean? What are the business objectives? What is a business objective? Spiro.
Is it business hopes to achieve over a set period of time? A set goal.
So can you say that loudly so everyone, including those at home, can hear?
An objective is what a business hopes to achieve over a set period of time.
Absolutely. Okay, absolutely. Give me an example of an objective.
To make a profit.
To make a profit. Okay. So in the study design, there are 4/5, depending on how you look at it, examples of objectives. The first, obviously, to make a profit. And the most common one that we look at, most of the case studies we look at are for-profit organisations. And so the most common business objective for what we look at is to make a profit. But of course there are other objectives. To increase market share, to fulfil a market and or social need, and to meet shareholder expectations. So can you meet any of these objectives? Can you meet any of these objectives without providing a good or service? I'd really like to know how a business could make a profit without actually selling something or providing a service for a fee.
Scams.
Scams, right. Okay. Sure. I'd really like to know how a legal business, could actually do this. But I guess, Nick, even a scam is providing some sort of service, entertainment perhaps, hope, I don't know. It is a service. Or maybe it's a dodgy good that doesn't actually work or do what it's supposed to do, but it's still something. So there is a clear and obvious link here between the actual operations process, transforming inputs into outputs, and achieving business objectives. You can't have one without the other. But I guess the question, we've got to delve deeper into this, and the question that we've really got to address is, how does the operations process, how does operations management, the management of the operations process, help you achieve business objectives? So if you look at operations management, how can you use that to help a business make a profit? So more than just the making or providing of a service or a good, right? More than that, how can you do that in a way that's both effective and efficient that helps you increase your profit? For example, Nick, these are the kind of things that we look at in this particular area of study. Continue with our link to objectives. Operations is directly linked to an organisation's objectives. Without operations, there would be no goods or services, and at the end of the day, you can't make a profit or maximise market share without operations. So all of this links back to objectives. All right. So we're looking in the book, guys, on page 139. And if we can just read through the relationship between operations and business objectives, I'll start with Nick. Dennis, we'll just pause it here. How do we pause it? Will you just do that at home?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay, cool. Yep, so relationship between operations and business objectives. You could read that for me, please, Nick.
The core objectives of all businesses is to make and maximize profit. This aim therefore requires businesses to maximize efficiency and effectively use resources to produce goods or services at the lowest possible price. Operations management is responsible for achieving this objective. Businesses such as South 32 and Australia Post are successful in achieving their business objectives because they focus on the management of quality, customer service, productivity, technological development, management of materials, waste minimization, and speed of delivery.
So if we stop there for a second, we're starting to sort of expand upon what operations management is, okay, and how it helps you achieve business objectives. If you want to maximise your profit, at the end of the day, intuitively this should make sense to you. If you want to maximise your profit, if you can produce goods the same level of quality, but for a lower cost, so perhaps using less inputs, less resources, you can make more money. Okay, if I'm a bakery and I make cakes, if I can minimise my waste, right? So I don't have to buy as much flour, I don't have to buy as many eggs, I don't have to buy as much sugar to produce a number of cakes. I will make more money. I'll maximise my profit. So operation management is about thinking about how we can do these things more efficiently and more effectively. Okay, this is just simply the same thing. So we're going to move on. You don't need to take that down. Okay, so the core objective of all organisations is to efficiently produce goods or services. Operation management is an area of management that can be used to achieve this objective. So I've got the example here of the Model T Ford. I'm actually going to look at this as a quick case study. I know it's not from the past 4 years. It's from a little bit further back than that. But it's an interesting one to talk about. Because Henry Ford, in case you don't know, was the founder of the Ford Motor Car Company. That's why it's called Ford. So just giving it away. So Henry Ford, back over a century ago, had started producing cars. Okay, and this is an example of one of the models. I think that's from the 1920s there, and that's your Model T Ford, one of the most popular cars of all time. Now, before Henry Ford really got involved, to make a car, you made it very similar to a wagon that might be pulled by horses. Okay, you put it up on blocks, if you like, and you brought all the bits and pieces to the car, and you screwed them on, and you built the car up from there. Okay, and it took a long time to build each car. Henry Ford had this great idea of moving the chassis of the car down an assembly line or a production line, and attaching parts to it as it moved past. Okay, so he was able to increase the speed at which he could produce the cars dramatically. He was able to produce more cars at the same cost, and therefore able to make more profit. And as a result, he was able to achieve business objectives. So that's just an example, and we'll look at that further in future lessons. So definition here, guys, for you. Please take this down. And you need to know this, of course. Operations management consists of all the activities in which managers engage in just goods or services. So that's your definition of the term. Take this down. Mary Ellen, please put that away. Thank you. Okay, so, like I said, we're going to be going through this really slowly because I don't want to cover too much ground while students are away at the National Schools event. And we've sort of got a week here where we can just sort of go through it relatively slowly, and we'll look at a few case studies and do some activities. Excuse me. All right, so I just wanted to, contrast operations management with an operations manager, right? So just be careful with your definitions and be careful with what you need to know. But at the end of the day, an operations manager is someone who has to make or at least be involved in decisions at the strategic as well as the operational or day-to-day level. So operations management itself is transforming inputs into outputs. Operations managers, therefore, need to have a fairly big look at the company overall, a fairly strategic overview of what the company is trying to do and what their objectives are and all those sorts of things. Okay, so we might stop this here, and I just want to work through the book and have a look at some of the case studies and answer some of the questions. So, how do I turn?
Oh, just leave.
Just leave it, just let it go, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
You'll edit it out, or however that works. Okay, so let's have a look at the book and work our way through that. Okay, so, Thomas. Can you continue from the nature and type of operations vary considerably from one type of good or service to another?
The responsibility for the operations area in small business tends to be held by the owner.
Where are you reading?
Yeah, relations between business. It was just underneath the nature.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
To be held by the owner, operator, or one or more employees. Large-sized businesses will usually establish an operations department. See the business structure diagram below. The manager responsible for operations will be involved in determining business objectives, along with other senior managers. This manager will also need to ensure that the strategies being used within operations align with the objectives and strategies of the entire business. The operations department will work very closely with other areas in the business. Operations may, for example, work closely with the human resource management department to recruit and select new staff to work in the area of operations. Additionally, operation strategies can be used to achieve objectives by supporting strategies in other areas of the business. See table A.
Okay, so let's have a look at this table just to give us an understanding of how things work. So ultimately, Regis, dot point one, what you need to know is the connection between operations management and business objectives. Okay, so if you've got an objective to make a profit, Spiro, okay, that's your key objective of any business that we look at. Look, if you want to make a profit, what can operations management do to make that objective more likely? That's the question, that's the connection you've got to make. Okay, so if I want to make a profit, I'm a business, I make cars, let's say. I'm a car manufacturer. The responsibility of the operations manager and operations management department is to make the car, is to transform the bits and pieces that make up the car, metal, plastic, all those ingredients, if you like, mix them all together on a production line, how a car's made, and then out comes the finished product at the end. So they've got to transform the raw ingredients using labour and expertise and a whole range of other things and come up with a car. If they can do that better, more efficiently and more effectively, reduce costs somewhere along the line, then you're able to better achieve your objectives. So, for example, if you look at the Model T Ford or the Henry Ford example, by using a production line, he was able to reduce the average time spent on building a car from 728 hours to 1.5 hours per car. So let's think, Luca, you're a car worker, you work at Ford, and I pay you, I don't know, $20 an hour in today's money, let's say. Right? And I'm getting you to make a car, and it takes you 728 hours at $20 an hour per person. It's costing me a lot to make that car, isn't it? What's 728 times 20?
It's like 1,456. No, yeah, 1,400.
14,000?
1,450.
14,560.
Yeah, you needed to carry the zero there. Yeah.
Zero.
But yeah, so almost, over $14,000. Takes you 1.5 hours. How much does it cost to make the car and labour costs? $30. So just by, seriously, that's pretty dramatic, isn't it? If you think about it in those terms. If you're Luca and you're the worker on the production line, maybe you're not so happy because you don't. Maybe you don't get paid as much, or there's not as need for as many workers. But in Ford's case, they were able to expand and employ even more workers. So sometimes it works in the workers' favour. Who knows? But that's a massive reduction in cost, Thomas. Labour costs. Obviously, there'd be technological costs. You've got to build a production line and build the factory and all those other things. But by automating sections, by building production lines, assembly lines, these sorts of things, Dennis, companies are able to reduce their costs substantially, but they're still producing the same good or service at the same level of quality. So they're still able to sell it at the same price. They could even sell it for less and sell more and even make more money. So operations is about the study of those things. Operations management is looking at what strategies can we use to do things better, more efficiently and effectively to help our business achieve its objectives. If it wants to achieve greater market share, so let's say Ford wanted to sell more cars. They wanted to have a higher percentage of all cars sold in that particular market. By being able to produce cars more quickly and at a greater volume, they could also sell them at a lower price. Therefore, more Ford cars are sold, more Model Ts are sold. As a percentage of all cars sold, Ford goes up. So again, by introducing technology, by reducing costs, potentially by improving quality, these are all things that we'll look at, that can assist the business achieve its objectives. So operations is really vital. That's what you've got to understand. It's really vital in the achievement of business objectives. Okay, now just in relation to 5.1, I just want to just quickly move ahead. I'll come back and we'll finish off the questions as we go. So we're not going to rush through this, as I said, and I'll come back to 5.1 later. But dot point 3, if you look at the study design, dot point 3, so I'll just go back to the start where the dot points are listed. Dot point 3, characteristics of operations management within both manufacturing and services business. Now, Dennis, there is no sub-chapter in your textbook that deals with this on its own. So if you're confused, I know sometimes people like to read ahead and have a look. Spiro, if you're going, wait, where's dot point 3? It's not actually in our textbooks. It is covered in 5.1 a little bit. Okay, and I'm going to expand on that a little bit as well through handouts and and part of this next PowerPoint. Okay, is everyone with me on that? So don't panic, don't go, oh, it's not in there. I was reading ahead, sir. Where is it? Don't freak out. It's actually in there, but it's not a subchapter. Okay, so I knew there was some concern sometimes when things don't exactly match up to the study design, like the previous SAC 4.9 and 4.10 didn't quite match up, and that threw people off a little bit. So don't worry about that. All right, guys. What I'd like you to do is work on the questions from 5.1, questions 1 to 9. We're going to continue with these in the next lesson as well and go through them because, like I said, we're going to be going through things relatively slowly.